service, because I think a lot of times, a lot of us can get really caught in putting on a service on a Sunday or being involved in what it just looks like in the four walls of our churches from week to week. But you know what? There's 6 other days in the week that we're called to be the church. So how does that look if we're not in the four walls of the church? And so beyond ministry, beyond the Sunday service is really what we're working through today, and what we're talking through. So can I get you guys to outline a little bit more, maybe if I've missed it, but what is your particular area of ministry within a church setting? So Heidi, do you want to kick us off this morning with that?
Thank you for having me. It's so lovely to be here. What an honour, what a privilege. So Lee and I are the lead pastors of Orange Campus, but we haven't launched yet, so we're in pre-launch stage, which is really, really exciting, and gathering an amazing team one by one, and God is good. So we're, so we're doing, everything at this point, which is fine, and we've always done everything. And we are excited about what God is doing. So I don't know if that's specific enough.
That's great.
Yeah, that's what we're up to. Yeah.
Jason, obviously things have changed for you over this last little while. So
yeah.
What has it looked like for you, and what does it look like for you now?
Yeah, well, after relaunching the church, and it's about 9+ years we were there, and just I had a heart for, because I remember when we had no money and no people, and nobody would talk to me. And I would go to these conferences, and you drive to Atlanta, and there's 19,000 people, and Judah Smith and T.D. Jakes and Stephen Furtick are preaching, and they have more people on their kids' staff than I had in my whole church, And so they have no idea what I'm going through, and I would just drive home feeling even more defeated than I went there to begin with. And so God just, I've always had a heart for the pastor and the church staff. And so God just opened up doors for me to begin a coaching practice and to help assist pastors who, might not be able to go to a conference, who, or feel defeated when you leave, right? That's a terrible feeling. And who really don't have anybody to talk to. Yeah. You have your friends and stuff, but really get down to it. One of the greatest things that we do is we sign mutual non-disclosure agreements.
Yeah, great.
And so it's a completely safe environment that everybody knows for sure legally that what we talk about can't go anywhere. Great. And so always had a heart for pastors. And so that's, God opened the opportunity up for me to travel and itinerate, and so do weekends and stuff. But also with that, we're now coaching business owners, CEOs and executive leaders, and doing leadership development. So half of our clients are pastors and half our clients are business owners. So
Great.
It's fun.
So good. And so when you're at home, do you and your family still go to Providence?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's our church. Josh has me speak there at least once a year.
Great.
And,
just as well.
Yeah,
just a little league in there.
Yeah, so that was kind of the contract we signed. And so, yeah, it's just, you're just going to have me. That's just the way it's going to be. Yeah, right.
I missed what you said.
I said it was a prenup.
Yeah, right. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're taking this church, then that's what's happening. So, but yeah, family still goes there. Kids are involved in ministry there, and it's just great. My wife still she still has her counseling practice there, and so still very heavily involved in the church, and it's really cool.
Great.
Yeah.
So good. So Levi, I actually didn't get to ask you this morning because I didn't see you before you went into a session with some of the team, but what does local church setting look like for you when you're home, when you're not in Africa, or, and what does then even your ministry setting then look like for you for your year and your calendar?
Yeah, so I'm home for about 6 to 8 Sundays a year, and the rest of the year is travelling to other churches. So I get a really amazing experience of kind of checking the health of the church right around Australia, visiting up to 100 churches a year around the country, performing in Sunday services and ministering in Sunday evening services. I do a bunch of youth nights as well. So I've been doing this for 12 years, and the last 7 of those years I've been doing that full time, just visiting churches and schools during the week, sharing music, sharing testimony, sharing song. That's what I love to do, yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that your dad was a Baptist church pastor?
Yeah, my dad was a minister for about 20 years.
Great.
He was trained up in Sydney and really gave me, I guess, the passion to become itinerant in what I do. So I really never dreamed of becoming a worship pastor or anything, although I do lead worship at my home church often. Help out, you know, I might run the sound desk one week or just help out on the team in some form. But my father went before me and travelled mostly around the state and to different parts of Australia, preaching on young adults camps and youth camps and really imparting leadership and life values to people through a Christian context. So I travelled with him as a kid. He had a massive stuttering problem. He used to finish his sentences. He really got annoyed with that, but it's cool. It's cool.
Sorry, what was that? No, it's so good. And, you know, God uses all of our stuff, right? I love that God actually can use whatever we've got going on in our world, and he takes our humanity, and in our weakness, his strength is made perfect. So that's so good. So what, for each of you, do you see, what is the difference that you see between serving the kingdom of God and serving a church? Is there a difference in that? And are we called to do both? So, Heidi, yeah.
Well, I mean, everywhere you go, there you are. And so it's amazing that when God calls you to a specific place, he'll give you a heart for a place. And I remember having a convo with Pastor Ben about 2 years ago when we were all starting to connect with beautiful GC, and, you know, just amazing how God's brought us in. And I said, Ben, I'm just really asking, I mean, I love Orange. I love where I live. I absolutely love it. But I cannot, you know, froth, spit, shake or roll. God has to give me such a higher level, and I just need him to give it to me. And that would be my prayer time with God. Give me love, your love. I am just going to be with you day in and day out, Lord, until you just pour that through. My heart literally breaks in a beautiful way for Orange. And God has been doing that, absolutely, totally doing that. So we talk about kingdom, we talk about church. So God has actually called me to 2800 postcode. I take responsibility for that area. I take responsibility for the people in that area because God has called me to that place. You know, and I think I've always been a country girl, but lived in the city for most of my life, but oh my goodness, same thing. You just can't take it out. And it's, oh man, it's in there, you just pump it. And it's like my heart is like, oh, this orange. I love this place. It snows, it's got spring, it's boiling hot, and then it's everything. It's like Boston. Anyway, and I love it. Love America. Anyway, and but then kingdom is like, you know, you're just not, you know, called, you know, if you're called to one place, that's absolutely awesome. But like I said, everywhere you go, there you are. I mean, every conversation can turn into, hi, how are you going? It can turn into something so beautiful in Woolworths aisle 10. Like, it doesn't matter where you are. The kingdom of God is being established on earth. And whether you're located in one specific area or you're travelling like these guys globally all the time, the conversations can be beautiful. You just have to be in that space ready to be willing to share him. You know, and sometimes it's just the kindness. It's not even just words. Hey, of course. Yeah. Great. So it's both for me.
Great. Jason?
What she said. I think that's pretty good. That's pretty good. I think there were 12 tribes of Israel, right? And so, like, for me, I think there's different tribes. There's different streams. There's different communities and faith expressions and that. But the kingdom is a broader. So it's like, what role does my tribe serve
Brilliant.
within all of them?
Brilliant.
Right?
Brilliant.
What can my church contribute to the community? And so we built huge relationships with pastors that like our city was so divided. Racially, socioeconomically, religiously, and so we contended for that. We worked really hard to bring, because there was 3 major governing spirits, if you will, over the city.
Yes.
Racism, poverty, and religion. And so to attack those 3 things, you don't go at it full force, because when something has been hovering over a city for a long time, you go at it not by attacking it, because it'll just dig its claws in deeper. But you attack it by living out of that opposite spirit. Yes. So racism, it was unity. So we did everything we could to unify people. We attacked poverty with generosity, right? And so then we attacked religion with relationship. And so building the kingdom, so our culture of our church, where does our tribe fit within the greater context of our community?
Brilliant.
And so that's how we did that.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
For me, I see such a separation so often, and it's a really sad thing, between church life and life out in the world. And so often our Sunday life is not our Monday life.
Yeah.
And we can separate on church conferences, on church camps. It's so easy to be a Christian. It's so easy to come and be filled with faith, with hope, with this great excitement about our Christian walk and our journey. And I feel my role is really to remind Christians that beyond the Sunday service, we're called to bring light and love and hope into this world and justice to it. My calling from when I was really young was to edify the church, remind the church of its call to justice. Revelation chapter 2 is great, where God talks to his church and says, I see these good things you're doing, but guys, remember the height from which you have fallen. Return to me, repent, and do the things you did at first. Love me like you did at first. And I think of love in that context of like a new relationship. Meeting my wife for the first time, I was 16 years of age. I wrote like 5 letters a month. I was keen, real keen. And she still married me, which was great. But we had this fire to our relationship. And now, 12 years into our relationship, I can't remember the last time I wrote her a letter. You know, and that's a different thing. We're still madly in love. We're crazy about each other. But that love can sometimes fade over time. We need a reminder sometimes to get that love back, to do those things that we did at first. And for me, that's reminding the church of its call to justice. And as Jason said, there's so much that needs to be done in our community, so much love that needs to be given. And so I don't want to be hypocritical in that. And so I try to get involved in my community and demonstrate a really practical way for churches to get involved with their communities, with their nations and the problems that exist, and globally. So I work in 3 different areas. I work in Melbourne's homeless capital, right in the city. There's more than 20,000 people that go without a bed every night. Through winter, through summer, these people are often elderly with mental health issues that prevent them from filling out all the forms that would require them to get housing. Drunkenness, there is drug abuse that affects these people so heavily. So I work with the Choir of Hard Knocks with homeless people, giving them a meal once a week and singing with them. We perform all over the country. It's great. That's local for me. National is looking at the things that affect our country, the greatest injustices in our nation, and you can't really look beyond the Indigenous people of our nation in some of these remote locations where kids don't have enough clothes to wear. They don't have access to the same things that we have. There's locations where domestic violence is the norm, where alcohol abuse and drug abuse is the norm for kids growing up, and there's epidemics of suicide. There's games played like Hangman's Noose in communities like Derby in Western Australia, where kids will draw straws to see who hangs themselves this week as a game. So there is massive injustice in our nation. Beyond that, we have a project, my band and I, over in Ethiopia, where we work with street kids to try and alleviate homelessness and hopelessness for kids growing up on the streets, often orphaned and vulnerable. around the world. And it's reminding the church every Sunday that I share in a church around Australia, these are the things that we can be getting active in. These are the things that we can get involved in to bring those two worlds a little closer, because we live in one world, if you didn't know. You know, and God wants to be a part of not just our Sunday service, he wants to be a part of our whole week. Yeah.
I guess one of the things that really excited me, Levi, about you and your story when we started looking to bring you here for conference this year was the fact that you were very outward focused. And I don't know, for me, and I'm a muso, so creative, but I think, do you think that at times perhaps people in areas like musicians or whatever can kind of get boxed into the thinking of the fact that it's what they're gifted in is to be on platform and to sing to a church on a Sunday and full stop? Like, you know, do you think that that's perhaps the box kind of that we can sometimes put ourselves in, and what's a way that we can start to think outside that box?
Yeah, I think if that's it, then that's not enough, to be really blunt.
Brilliant.
Amos is one of my favourite prophets, and he was real blunt. You know, he didn't kind of add anything, change anything from what God spoke to him to share with the people of Israel. And he says this in Amos chapter 5, 21 to 24. I'll just paraphrase it. I can't stand the things you're doing. All your meetings and your plans, even your offerings, I won't accept. Take away from me the noise of your songs, this noisy music that I detest. I want justice like a river, flooding streams of righteousness. So the worship service is not enough. And that's great. It's great that we give our offerings, our tithes. We come up here, we serve, we preach, we minister through music. And for the creatives, we paint, we decorate the stage, we do this great stuff, we make it look so good. But if it stops there, it's not enough.
Yes.
It's not enough.
And so, obviously for all of us in our giftings, there are ways that we can actually utilise those outside the four walls, outside of a Sunday service. So Heidi, can you just tell us a little bit about your flower field and how you're actually using that gifting, because it's probably not something that we would necessarily all think of immediately, but how you're using that to actually plant the church in Orange and to actually reach people for the kingdom, not just for the church, but for the kingdom.
Yeah, absolutely. So you know, part of why I'm on the planet is I have to play with flowers. I have to. Jason, I have to play. Leave. I have to play with flowers. I will die if I don't have flowers, literally. And anyway, so feeling so much better now. Stay right there. Thank you. So I get online, I'm just like, if I don't paint with flowers, I'm going to die. And so I got online and I got onto eBay and I found this flower cart, and it was just random. It was $330. There was none above and none beneath. And, you know, Lee is an entrepreneur, my husband of 26 years. Love you, honey. Yeah, entrepreneurial freak of nature. And I said, and he goes, oh, do you think you should better think about it? And I said, no, we're not going to think about it. I'm going to buy this cart and we're going to reach this town, bless God. Anyway, and so I got this cart, and then we got this position, and we got it out the front of Kmart, which is quite a thoroughfare, you know, in one of the major shopping centres in Orange. And then, of course, we combined it with the Horizon project, and I'd sort of not sit there, I mean, I'd work my bum off, but like we'd have the card, we'd have the flowers, and I'd have the cards, and people would come, and I'd have this sort of retro bike, and I'd have the banner with the Horizon, just like your banner, Levi, beautiful. Anyway, I'm there, and I'm loving on the people. See, this is the thing. I figure that, see, in occasion with flowers, you have the privilege of being privy, if that's the word, to someone's precious moment. So whether it's a baby being born, or whether it's an anniversary, or like I've had several women come and say I've had a big big sort of bust up with my best girlfriend, and I want to say sorry. So, and you get all, and then there's death, and there's all these other things in between. But I'm sort of this in between wrapping the flowers, and I get to hear and I get to listen, and they just stand there and they cry, and like they would cry, and I don't know whether they thought my flowers were good or not, but they just keep crying, and it was like, oh, it's all right, it'll be okay, and so that's how. In my brain, how am I going to reach people through occasion and this honoured, privileged position where they're asking me to create something? It's like paint work for an artist, but I paint with flowers. And so part of my proceeds would go to Beautiful Horizon Project. And anyway, so we started thinking, what are we going to do to make this thing grow? And like God was building that love thing in my heart for Orange and building and the relationship, and I get regular customers back and all that sort of stuff. I thought, oh God, and then amazing Matt Rendell, like coaches, and like, oh yeah, he's like my brother from another mother. Anyway, and I'm sitting there one day like bawling, going, what is this? I just want to reach, more, and I'm just keen. And I said, what are we going to do? And he'd give me this, what are you going to do? And answer these questions, and I'd wrestle over it. Anyway, love my city. And I thought, what are we going to do? We're going to find a spot. And I love antiques, and I love fine bone china, and I love beautiful things. And I sort of started to think about how we're going to put all that together. And we just, long story short, we found this property that was for lease, and yada yada yada. Found this beautiful place, like 1914, heritage listed, beautiful place with the old door. It doesn't even lock properly. Don't worry, we've got security cameras. Don't try to break in. Anyway, it's all right. And I wanted good coffee. I don't even drink coffee. I get heart palpitations. I haven't got a clue. But I wanted good tea. I'm a tea puff. I love.
You don't need coffee, girl. I'll just tell you that right now.
And
you are coffee. You are the living embodiment of coffee.
And I'm from Texas, y'all. And we need some chicken fried steak up here. Oh, let's go. Anyway, so I needed tea. So we had to have the best tea. But did you know that tea is actually full of child trafficking across the earth, like tea plantations? So I had to have certified organic tea, and I had to apply to the company to actually get this tea brand in, like as if I'm going to get it, like I'm one, not even known. I've got one follower on Instagram. Anyway, really, we're going places. Anyway, and like this, and she goes, oh, I'll give you 10 days, and I'll let you know. And they get thousands of applications. Like, yeah, right. Anyway, and I get the email. Lee goes, honey, I got something to tell you. I thought, oh gosh, no, more bad news. Anyway, and she said, yes. So we have this certified organic tea brand that's Australian, and I know that no child has been used picking that tea. So when you drink tea, it's wonderful. Anyway, and then I created this. Then I get online. So amazing. Am I taking too long? Awfully sorry. Anyway, Annalise, our daughter, she goes, Mum, there's this lady selling all this stuff on Facebook, and it's everything you want. And it was like, late at night, and I couldn't get onto her. And like, there was these 73 women are going to go to this garage sale. She's closing down this wedding hire vintage teacup, that everything that I love thing. And I thought, oh, this is amazing. I thought 73 women, someone's going to get their eyeball scratched out their head. Anyway, I'm gonna buy this shop sight unseen. So I got in touch with this lady, and I said, I looked at the stuff, and I went, okay, I look at that and doing my calculations. Okay, I'll offer you this much, the whole thing. I'll buy your whole store. And she goes, no, what about this? And I went, what about this? What about this? So I bought the whole shop sight unseen because I thought it would save me 6 months of collecting antiques. Anyway, so I bought it all, transferred the money, and then Lee, bless his heart, got the hire truck and went and picked it up. And all this antique furniture creates this high tea room. And the high tea room is to make people feel loved, because God called me to Orange. And so we serve them certified organic tea where no child has been used in the picking of that tea, and all these lovely antiques, which was an unbelievable bargain. And I'm very excited. Anyway, and then we created this restaurant. I don't even know how to drink coffee. When the smoke alarm goes off, everyone knows in my house dinner's ready. I don't know how to cook. So I just hired a chef. And the chef, honestly, really, I'm bad. And the chef just makes all this food and like all these amazing people. And that's how we love the city. And I welcome them in. And like, honestly, my staff, dear God, if they step out of line, I will hug them even more. But this is the thing. The culture is, you're going to love these people whether you like it or not. I mean, I want you to love these people. Now, I got 9 staff at the moment. Now, we're growing. That's not much, but they don't know Jesus. My staff don't know Jesus. Now, see, they are part of my love thing as well. Like, I'm getting to know them one by one. And Lee and I just treat them like family. So, and then we've got this restaurant, and tomorrow we open the courtyard, and that's another whole story. Like another, it's an, no,
Which
it's
we
another,
don't really have time for the
No, I'm
courtyard
sorry.
story.
I'm awfully sorry. I won't go there. I promise, Libby. I'm so sorry.
No, we've got
Terrible.
the 3 best talkers sitting right here on
But see,
that's great.
That's how you reach people. How much more natural is it that let's go get coffee? Yeah. How much more natural is it? And loving people and having a culture that is, you are so welcome, and your children that drop crumbs on the floor in my shop is fine with me. Bring your babies and bring them. And that's how we build relationships. So it looks like coffee shop, and it is, but it's the heartbeat behind everything I do is to help raise funds for the Horizon and get those kids out of the streets in Nepal. But my heart is to reach my own backyard. I just happen to do it through flowers and coffee and tea. Sorry I took so long.
Amazing, right? And there's even edible flowers there. It's amazing. So good. So, Jason, you do lots of stuff with...
You're going to make me follow that? Are you kidding me?
We
Let
could
him talk about singing to his wife some more. That'll be good.
We could always skip to keys.
Yeah, well, we'll do that later. Yeah.
Later. So you do a lot with business coaching, obviously. And so what about other people in the business world? Like, obviously, Heidi's thing is flowers, and she's very loving, as you can tell, hey? It just oozes, like love oozes out of Heidi. But I guess there are others of us, Ben, that are a little bit more planned in their approach to business and a little bit more, maybe, you know, I am. And you know what? We can't do without the people who do the planning.
Nice save.
We cannot do without the people that do the planning at all. I often say to Ange Mitchell that I really do need her, because I just come up with the ideas and then she just figures out how to make it safe for our kids. So, yeah, I'm the confetti, but we need the planning, right? We need the planning. And so some of the people that you deal with, I'm sure, are probably like Heidi, but also some are a little bit more strategic and a little bit more, well, not that you're not strategic.
Oh, no. Lee's the strategic one.
I'm really digging a hole, I know, anyway. but perhaps a little bit more calculated in their planning and that sort of thing. And perhaps sometimes they could maybe see, oh, well, I can't, like I'm doing my business thing. But so how do you perhaps think that they have something to offer within the kingdom, and even sometimes within the walls of the church as well? Because sometimes we tend to see business as sort of sitting separate from the church. So what thoughts around that do you have?
Well, I talked a little bit about it yesterday. There's kings and priests, right? Kings and priests, people who run the church, people who are business-minded, people who are looking at this and that. In what I do, everybody's different. So, like, I don't have a cookie-cutter way of working with my clients, right? So it's like everybody's different. So we don't have like we're just going to do it this way. No, it's all based upon their need and where they are. And a lot of people have, a bent towards, they already have, leanings towards helping and contributing to the community and giving back and stuff like that. And so, we encourage people, as I go with my clients, if they don't have that natural bent, I just start planting seeds, and just saying, hey, what would it look like? The greatest thing that we can do for people is help bring clarity. you know, and help them see maybe some things they've never seen before in their life and business and everything. And it's like, hey, did you know that there are 3,000 homeless people in our community? Did you know that? No, I didn't, you know. And just having conversation with people. And, you know, a lot of folks I deal with aren't believers, right? And which is beautiful, because everything that we want, everything I do, I want to be in proximity of people who don't know the Lord, right? So doing the business coaching stuff, I have the opportunity to, you know, share with people and get into relationship with people who would never step foot in the church ever. Brilliant. And so just to be able to have those safe conversations, you know, where you know, people go, hey, I know we're talking about business stuff, but can I talk to you about something else? I'm like, yeah. They're like, now, does the mutual non-disclosure agreement include personal things? I'm like, yeah, of course. They're like how personal? I'm like, if you told me that you murdered someone, I would have to ask you, where do you want to hide the body? So, you know, I've got a shovel in the back of my car. Let's go. It's a safe environment, but not for the dead guy you killed, right? So like, what kind of business is this? Make you an offer, right? So,
the good for them.
Yeah. So, but it's just encouraging people to always, like, why are you doing what you do? You know, why are you doing what you do, and for what purpose? You know, obviously we want to make money and take care of our family and take care of our employees and all that stuff. But don't you see that you in your business can make an impact in the community at large, and how that looks? And then you just get those people around other, you know, people who have been doing it for years, and it just gets contagious, you know. And so it's really cool to be able to encourage people. You know, there's people who already lean that way, and then there's people who are just like, nah, I'm keeping all my money, right? But to be able to help navigate people, you know, through some of that, to release, you know, some of the resources they've created.
So good. Did you have something to add?
Yeah, look, I kind of feel like we're on Antiques Roadshow and then, like, How to Get Away with Murder here. Yes. I really think there's so many creative ways that we can get involved with community. My drummer, Andy, is my best friend. He came to me a couple of years ago. He said, man, music's meant so much to my life. He's grown up a musician. He's played in countless worship bands. He's been part of so many jazz ensembles and major performances and big brass bands. And he loves to drum. He loves music. It brings him a great deal of joy. And he says to me, I bet we could bring that same joy to kids around Australia who come from backgrounds of disadvantage, who are cut off, who are isolated. So what would it look like if we could raise some funds and take some musical instruments, some really quality musical instruments? We're not going to give away people's secondhand junk. You know, we're going to really honour people, create a culture of dignity around what we do. Let's go to some outback, really remote communities where there's no money to get to town to buy the instrument anyway, but they live in 800 k's away from a music store. Let's take some instruments in and just see where that leads us. And so we set up this project called Instruments for the Outback. We put a fundraiser online. We had no limit on it. We expected we'd make a couple of grand. We made $25,000. People just jumped on board, and the Lord just really blessed it. So we take 15 of the best Christian musicians from around Australia, and we were so surprised that almost none of them had done any kind of mission. Almost none of them had done any form of justice and really seen Australia. Really seen what there is beyond the coastal cities, you know, where we mostly come from. And so we travelled out to Outback Northern Territory. We get to bless 2 communities with brand new Maton acoustic guitars, with beautiful keyboards, with drum kits. And we see these kids playing these drums. And 3 days into this first trip, we're doing this for a few years now, but 3 days into this first trip, teacher comes up to us crying, watching these 3 young, dark Aboriginal boys, these beautiful boys from really remote locations. She's crying and watching them drum and just have fun. And we said, oh, what's wrong? And she said, you know what, I've never seen these kids smile. I've never seen these kids smile. They come from backgrounds of abuse and family violence, and they had not a lot to smile about. But it's rewiring brains to have positive memories. And if we can do that through music and impart God's Spirit as we do that, get a chance to share with the kids, there's always a why that comes from that. There's why are you doing this? And then we get to share God's love in these communities. So it's awesome. But there's a creative way that we can take things off the platform and go, you know what, we've been given a lot. How about we go and give to some others too?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So much wisdom, hey. And, you know, you might be sitting there thinking, well, I'm not a muso. I'm not a businessman. I don't play with flowers. And you might even be tempted to say, I'm just.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
But remember, you're not just. You know, you might be a mum that can help out with the Muslim family whose little boy is really struggling to read because she can't pronounce the letters right. You might be someone who can bake a cake and welcome the new family to your neighbourhood that may have just moved there out of a horrible situation. You might just be the smile that someone needs, or the, hey, you have a great day to the checkout chick who's just had horrible customers before you. And the reason that I called this ministry beyond the Sunday service is because I think sometimes we can slap a label on it of community engagement, and that's what the church does. But it's not what the church does. It should be who the church is. It should be our way of life. And whatever God's put in your hand, whether it be flowers, business, music, being a mum, being someone who goes to the grocery store, whatever it is that God's put in your hand, there are people that are going to a lost eternity. And let us be the church. Let us show the kingdom of God. Let us show Jesus' love as a lifestyle, not as a slap-it-on label that we're going to make an appointment to do some community engagement activity this month. Though that's good too, but let's be the church. Can we do that?
Yes, we can.
So good. So let's thank our incredible panel. Yes. So much wealth here. So much wealth.